Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Activity Strong webinar. My name is Megan McMahon, and I am the Director of Strategic Development here at Link Senior. For today's webinar, we will be providing one free NAB, NCAP, NCCDP, NCTRC, and NZSRDT CEU credit. To be eligible for those credits today, you do need to remain on the webinar for the full hour. At the end of the webinar, I am going to provide the required post-webinar CEU survey link in the webinar room chat box, and I will also send that link to you by email this afternoon, so please be sure to check your spam folder in case it lands there. The CEU survey must be completed by midnight Eastern Time this Thursday. If you do have any questions, please email us at webinars@linksenior.com. And your CEU certificates will be issued by email before the end of the day on Friday, August 26th. All right, so today's webinar is about targeting critical staffing resources to team and resident purpose, and we are really excited to have Dr. Katie Abbott and Alex Heffner as our featured speakers today. And as I said, my name is Megan, and I am proud to be the co-producer of the Activity Strong virtual event series alongside Charles DeVillemorn, who's the CEO and co-founder of Link Senior. Our team, as you know, believes in a world where people of all ages are respected and valued. And that is why we started our Old People Are Cool initiative back in 2017. Activity and life enrichment professionals are incredible, and you are our industry's unsung heroes, which is why we created the Activity Strong initiative more than 2 years ago to acknowledge, educate, and empower each of you. We are excited to be working with so many forward-thinking communities across the United States and in Canada, and we do look forward to welcoming more of you on board with us in the weeks and months ahead. Link Senior is enhancing life in senior living communities, and we're doing that by building simple and evidence-based solutions to bring person-centered experiences to older adults and their care partners. Our technology focuses on engagement, connection, and celebration of individuality. Back in 2018, we did partner with the Responsive Group in Toronto and Western Oregon University to research our impact on resident engagement with funding for the Center for Aging and Brain Health Innovation. Results from that research showed that our technology increased cognitive functioning and social engagement for residents and decreased aggression in antipsychotic medication use. So here is the agenda for today. As a reminder, please be sure if you have any questions for our speakers to put those in the Q&A section of the webinar room. If you do want to engage in the chat section, just remember to select the Everyone button so that we can all see your messages. And as a reminder, here are the webinar objectives that our speakers will be covering today. And I'd first like to introduce Dr. Catherine Abbott, who is the Executive Director of the Scripps Gerontology Center and Professor of Gerontology at Miami University. We are also really happy to have Alex Heffner today, Senior Research Assistant at Miami University. And last but certainly not least, we are excited to have special guest Joan Devine with us, who recently retired from her role as Director of Education at Pioneer Network. So Katie, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share now and hand this over to you.
Wonderful, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm so delighted to be here with you today and just can't wait to share with you some ideas that we have around how we can help our staff members. And so first, I want to turn it over to Joan, who's going to sort of set the stage for us. And so Joan, just go ahead and start and let me know when you'd like me to advance.
Well, thank you, Katie. I am so honored to have been asked to be part of this. This team from Pele has been very active. Whoops, and I just lost my screen on my computer. So I can't see the PowerPoint at all anymore. I love technology. Oh, goodness. Oh, there we go. Got it back.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. And you bring technology to something what you were going to learn about later today that is such a wonderful way to let technology help us out, because as much as it can be a challenge, as I just witnessed, it certainly can help us deal with the problems we're facing. And so Katie and Alex asked me to kind of set the stage for where we're headed right now, why we're even talking about the Pele, why this is something that you should care about. And I truly believe you should. We're facing a lot of problems. And what I'm going to tell you right now is nothing new, nothing you're not just scratching your head over every day. We're not aligned. Our healthcare aging services truly just are not aligned to people's preferences. I was talking briefly with Megan before the webinar started. Ageism is such a huge thing in our society as a whole. And sadly, it exists within our communities. Even with the best of intentions, it assists there. So, we don't always take the time to understand what people want. We stereotype and say, if you're old, this is what you're going to want. This is what you're going to like. How many times did we hear that you hit a certain age and all of a sudden bingo becomes your favorite activity? And we know that's not true for everybody. Some, yes, but not everyone. We've also really misaligned our care results. Poor quality of care and poor quality of life for people. The goal of the regulations that we have worked with for years has been quality of care. And that's a great goal. As a background, just so you know, my crazy background, I started out in life enrichment as an activity director in a nursing home and then became a nurse. So it's been interesting this last 40 some years of my career mixing those two pieces, because as a nurse, there is no question quality of care is what we talked about. There was a little bit of, we throw quality of life in there every once in a while just to keep people happy, but it wasn't what we talked about. It wasn't what the regulations drive us to. And it's a good goal, but we all know we can provide great quality of care and miss the target completely on quality of life. But if I set my goal at quality of life, I'm going to provide good care, because I can't have a good life if my healthcare needs are not met, if my basic care needs are not met. So raise the bar. Barriers to aligning care it's a large workforce issue. We have so many different disciplines. We have 3 shifts going on. The work is never done. Communication can, if anybody can figure out the problem to solving all our issues with communication, God love you, you will be rich beyond means and won't be on a webinar like this with us anymore. Because it's, as I like to say, communication is the answer to all problems, but also the root of all evils. So we struggle with it every day. We know that we work with and live with many times people living with dementia. And there are behavioral expressions of distress that are displayed. They can be upsetting not only to that individual, but to us as care providers, to their family members. And so, always trying to be the challenge of always, how do we deal with that? How do we overcome that challenge for us? And symptoms of distress, I love this, wandering, persistent vocalization, resistance or refusal of care. If you're living with dementia, these become behaviors. But if you and I just get restless and want to walk around a little bit, it's just getting up and walking around a little bit. We're not called wanderers. If we don't like what our doctor says to us and we say not go in that direction, it's considered our option, our choice. I could refuse care. Not so if you're living with dementia, or quite honestly, oftentimes if you're living in a skilled nursing and even assisted living, even independent living. Our children tell us that we can't believe that anymore as we get older. God love them. And then, our care partners, those people who are there right on the front line, trying to prevent the distress, trying in the midst of everything else you're trying to do, knowing of the staffing shortages that we are dealing with that are not going away overnight. How do you find the time? How do you make it work? So those are the problems kind of framed, but there are some solutions out there. And that's what this whole webinar is about. And one of the solutions is something that Pioneer Network truly believes in. And as we move forward in our alliance with the Greenhouse Project, are really looking at the solution is in transforming the culture. And, you're going to see that word used more and more, transforming instead of change, because change can be a little bit off-putting to some people. You're asking me to change something that is in essence good, but transforming is kind of that evolution. And that's what we're really trying to achieve, is that evolution of the culture, to transform it to what we want it to be. And we have the principles to do it, and they're embedded in the Pioneer Network values and principles. And my tenure with Pioneer Network, it has been so much fun to see that the number of people that use our values and principles as foundations. I've heard Katie and Alex use them as a foundation. The group at Greenhouse Project, the Eden Alternative Team, Action Pact. These are fundamental, and the core of these values truly is know each person. How can I provide the best to you? How can my care be person-centered or person-directed if I don't know you? And knowing me is not just knowing, do I like a bath or a shower? What time do I want to get up in the morning? That's not really, that doesn't define me. Knowing me is really understanding me as a person, my desires, my wishes, my goals, because we all still have goals up until the point we take our last breath. So remembering that, and then knowing that by knowing each person, I take that the other principle that I think is just so critical in all this is that relationship is a building block of a transformed culture. I have to know you to have a relationship with you, and I have to have relationships in order to transform my culture, because this is something we're doing together. And it's not just the relationship between me as a care provider and a resident, it's the relationship between all of us that we need to grow. And that means I need to know my team members just as I need to know my residents. So I think that's a foundational piece. And I know that you're going to hear that, whether said distinct as a spelled out or whether underneath kind of the foundation, you're going to hear those foundations from Katie and Alex as they talk. The wonderful thing about Peli that I have so enjoyed getting to work with Katie and Alex over the year, and having them at our conferences and doing webinars for Pioneer Network and working with them in a community setting, is they are helping us put what I call the process behind the passion. Because I think the people on this call probably have all the passion in the world. But the challenge is the passion alone isn't going to get us where we need to go. We have got to have a process, and a process that supports quality, a process that supports and respects the time that it takes to do these things, that when we look at technology, does our process give us a way to use technology to help us, or a way that is one more thing for us to do? And so that process is so critically important. And that process is what can help us as we go to change or transform culture versus just putting in new practices. And I'm just going to share one last thing before I turn it over, and what I mean by that, because what you're going to hear about is about transforming a culture, not just a practice. Peli is more than just a thing to do. And and the way I like to kind of explain that to people is, you think about, your DON or your activity professional or your administrator went off to a workshop or a webinar, and they come back all excited because they got this new thing you have to do, and you're all kind of going, oh my gosh. And what they do is they say, okay, natural awakening, it's the thing to do. We're going to start doing that effective Monday. Natural awakening is what we're doing in this community. See, I wrote this new policy, and this is going to tell you exactly how you're supposed to do it. And that's what's going to happen, effective Monday morning. And, maybe it'll happen because, I hold some power in the organization, and I got you to do it. And I gave you a few ideas of how to find out from people what they needed. But if I leave, oh yeah, Joan's gone. Remember that get up list that was in the drawer? It's still there. So let's pull it out and make it happen again, because I never really understood what Joan was trying to accomplish anyway. It was her project. But instead, if I want to change a culture or transform a culture, I come back from that workshop and I gather you all together. And we talk about what it means to have what natural awakening means to me as a caregiver. We talk about me as a resident. We also talk about what it means to you as a caregiver. What are the challenges? If we're going to support natural awakening, what are the challenges for you as a caregiver? That's going to be all, it's all going to be part of the conversation. We're going to take the tools that Katie and Alex have so beautifully provided for us, and we're going to figure out a way to bring them into our culture and make them real. But we're going to take the time to understand what they are, why they are, and then how we put them into place. That's transforming culture. And Katie and Alex, you have such a wonderful menu of tools to help us do that. And so off we go. Let's learn about Peli.
Wow, thank you so much, Joan. I just kind of want to like soak that in for a few minutes. Well, hi, everybody. I'm just delighted to be here and just so appreciative to Link Senior for inviting us to join you. And so what I want to talk to you about are preferences. She does, right, Alyssa? Joan does have amazing energy. It's just so incredible to be around. So why do preferences matter? And this is nothing earth-shattering, right? You all understand this. So person-centered care seeks to understand each individual's preferences, goals, and values, and honor them through the care delivery process, right? Like that's what we're all about, what we're trying to do. And one way to do that is to assess people's preferences for everyday living. And that is how you can get concrete information about how that person wishes to live their life. And we know that when preferences are understood, when they're honored, people have a greater sense of autonomy, quality of life, and emotional well-being. And so there's a lot of great outcomes that can come from this. Many of you may have heard about the recent report from the National Imperative to Improve Nursing Home Quality. And throughout that report, it's like 700 pages. They have preferences throughout the report. And this is just one example about where preferences come in terms of vision, guiding principles. Any definition you're going to find about person-centered care is going to have something about understanding that individual's preferences. And so that's really where we have based our claim, is let's figure that one component out. It doesn't mean it's all person-centered care. It's just one aspect of person-centered care that we think is actionable. So as a team, we call ourselves preference-based living. And our mission is to conduct studies that build understanding of individuals' preferences, to test innovative methods, to honor preferences for people receiving long-term services and supports, whether you're in adult day, receiving home health care, in assisted living, nursing home, wherever you may be living. And we have 4 sort of buckets where we think about things. We think about one in terms of developing action plans, developing policies and procedures, formalizing how preferences are assessed, and then utilizing that information to assess care. We do this in a couple of specific ways that we're going to talk to you about. So our main approach is to tackle how to support you in a feasible way. That's not extra work. It can flow within your existing workflow practices to learn about people's preferences and easily communicate them over the course of a day or a week, where, again, everybody knows the staffing shortages that we're all experiencing right now. It is just very difficult to get anything done when you don't have the people to do the work. And we have received generous funding from the Ohio Department of Medicaid that has helped us develop all these tools and provide them at no cost to all of you. And so we're deeply grateful for the funding that we've received. The 2 innovations that we're most proud about are what we call our PAL cards, preferences for activity and leisure cards. I'll show you an image of that in just a second. Think about a little 5x7 card that's laminated, and it on one side has the individual's name, first name, and a little bio. On the back side has space for half a dozen or so important preferences, including communication preferences. This can be placed wherever that individual, on their walker, on their wheelchair, so that it's with them wherever they go in the community, or communities can decide they want it in one specific location so staff can find it. We were trying to remediate a barrier that providers told us about having this information in a binder on a desk that nobody went after. The second one is called our IPI for short. It stands for the Individualized Positive Psychosocial Intervention. And this is an evidence-based program that engages people living with dementia, moderate to severe dementia, in brief, think 10-minute, one-to-one preference-based activities 2 to 3 times a week. In the randomized clinical trial that we conducted on our IPI, we found that people living with dementia had fewer emotional and behavioral responses when receiving the IPI compared to those receiving usual care interventions. So here's an example of the PAL card. You can see on the front, we've got a first name. We have just a brief bio. These icons referred to the other side around communication preferences. And you've got a few tidbits of information here that you can quickly absorb and say, oh, wow, I love to watch old Westerns too. And when you walk in to talk to Sadie, you can talk to her about, you know, her favorite John Wayne movie. And so that's something that we're really proud about. And we're just about to release a personal care PAL card type feature. And so that's something to look for. And we hope you'll join our newsletter when we get to that point. Here's some PAL cards in action. You can see them hanging on a walker or a wheelchair, or maybe they go on a resident's door because it's easier for that community to tell their staff, here's where to look for the thing. HIPAA concerns, Julie, great idea. So one thing I want to come back here, notice you'll find no information about protected health. So HIPAA relates to protected health information, right? Dates, diagnoses, none of that is on here. Preferences are not protected health information. And we've heard that from HIPAA privacy officer after HIPAA privacy officer. And what the issue is that these are just about them. And there's ways that you can, if the person is communicative, you can ask them, is it okay if we put this on your walker or wheelchair? So you can get consent from the individual. If the individual isn't able to communicate, you could talk to a family member and get permission. You might even then, if you're still not comfortable, you could put it on the inside of a closet door, right? You could put it on the back of a framed piece in the door. So there's lots of options that you can have with these PAL cards, but again, there's no birth dates, there's no diagnoses, there's no two-person transfer. So again, we are just including information around activities and leisure for these cards. Okay, here are some pictures of IPPEs in action. They're a little harder to photograph and show, but essentially it's a one-to-one activity that's around the preferred interest of the individual. We have a lot of measurable outcomes. Everybody wants to understand about what are we going after here. We think that doing preference-based care can increase residents' well-being, knowing their voices are heard and preferences understood. We think it can increase satisfaction with care, not only for the residents, but for the family members. We think that can lead to fewer complaints. We can also see a reduction in the behaviors of distress exhibited by individuals and the reduction of depressive symptoms. So we look at it as put in a little bit of time at the beginning, and then you're going to save yourself a whole lot of time down the road as you're trying to get out from behind that 8 ball. If you don't take the time initially to learn a little bit about this person, to know, okay, well, I know that at 3 o'clock they're going to try and elope every day. So let's have some kind of an activity where they can get involved so that we can prevent that from happening. We think staff will feel supported in initiating meaningful conversations with the individuals they're providing care for. We think those temporary staff, the agency staff that many providers have to rely on right now, will help them quickly learn about the individuals they're providing care for. We think it'll help develop stronger relationships, which again is foundational to feeling a belonging. We think that it'll increase satisfaction of staff. Maybe they'll feel less moral injury, where they feel like, I really want to do this for this person, but I'm not given the time to do it. But maybe if you're able to say, hey, I know that this is what's really important to Sadie, and I'm able to do this for her today, and I feel good about that. And maybe they might have moments of joy with residents to do this work. And also the staff have tools to provide comfort in times of distress, so that talking about that apple butter festival with Bobby may really help get that person bathed, may help in easing, some stress. For organizations, we see preference-based care as meeting regulatory mandates around providing person-centered care. We think organizations want to do this work because it adds value, it increases your market share, and it's aligned with your mission, vision, and values to deliver high-quality care. We think tailoring care to individuals, to be individualized to people's life experiences and cultural backgrounds, also contributes to the broader goal of health equity. If we're assessing everyone with a standardized measure, we're not going to be assuming that we know what they like. right? And so that's when it takes us here to, this is kind of our big, hairy, audacious goal, where we look at how preferences help us at many different levels. It helps us at the individual level, the dyad level around family and direct care workers. It helps us at the provider level, and then systems goals. And so we see this as just a big, hairy, audacious goal that we want to do. Okay, so Megan, why don't you launch the poll for me? Because this will help me understand how much I should go into about the PELI, because the foundation of our work is around the preferences for everyday living inventory. And this is an assessment that has been validated in hundreds and hundreds of older adults. It's a questionnaire that you can use to learn about individuals' most important preferences for daily living. It has been found to be valid and reliable. We have studies that show that preferences themselves are reliable and valid after 1 week, after 3 months, and after a year, giving clinicians the comfort in knowing that when you take the time to do this work, it's going to pay off. It's not going to change a lot. Yeah, people may feel differently from day to day, but we know this information is very stable. 16 of the PELI items are consistent with the MDS Section F assessment. And the information from the PELI can be incorporated into care and quality improvements efforts. And so let's see, how are we? Oh, good. Okay. So about half of you aren't at all familiar with the PELI. And then the other half of you have heard about it, maybe not, quite so familiar with it. And so let me provide you with, thanks, Megan. Here's a sample item. And we're also going to give you our contact information. If you want to reach out, we're happy to tell you more. We have resources on our website with all of this. Again, this is all provided at no cost. So we have each stem of the PELI starts out with how important is it to you, because we intentionally did that so that it could have quality improvement ramifications that Alex is going to talk about with you next. And so we need to get some kind of a guide as to, is this important or not? And then if it's important, we need to know some details in order to incorporate that into the care plan. If it's not important, we simply move on to the next item. And so you can see here, how important is it to you to listen to music you like? And this is an MDS item. And then so you can see if it's very important, let's get some more information. If it's not at all important, let's just move to the next item. So that's the essence of the PELI. Now, one thing I will tell you is that after repeated assessments with older adults, we kept asking them, have we forgotten anything? And they would mention something to us. So the full PELI that we talk about when we say the full PELI, there's 72 different items. But this is not to be thought of as like what we call in the research term as a composite scale where you have to use every single item. These are individual items that you can pick and choose from. And so we recommend you start with maybe 10. If you're in a nursing home, start with the MDS items. And we have a version of the PELI that has these, what we call detailed questions. So you can just simply ask for a little bit more information as you're doing your MDS assessment. If you're in assisted living or maybe adult day, you may look through the items and say, well, these 6 or 8 are really what's important to us right now. You may just pick the items around food and snacks and start there. So again, it's not meant to be used as all 72 items. However, what we have seen is that the problem is that if you're doing this in paper and pencil form, it's very difficult in a digital world. And so that's where we partnered with Link Senior to be able to take the MDS 16 items from the PELI and create a digital way of recording this information. And so what I want to do now is I want to turn it over to Alex Hepner, who can tell us more about what we call Compass. So Alex, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Hi, everybody. So glad to have you here today. So I am going to tell you about our solution. So as Katie mentioned, it's really important to understand an individual's preferences, but then oftentimes we do those assessments in paper and pencil, and that sits in a drawer. And so to really make that data, more available to you, you need something to help you kind of crunch those numbers. And so that's where we partnered with Link Senior to develop Compass 16. So Compass stands for Care Preference Assessment of Satisfaction. We call it Compass 16 for short because, as Katie mentioned, it has those 16 questions from Section F of the MDS. So Compass is a web-based application that offers a simple and efficient tech solution to long-term care providers. Compass allows you to ask nursing home residents about preferences for everyday living and document that information for easy sharing among care team members. As we mentioned, the system contains the 16 questions from the 16 Section F questions, in addition to that, we have the Peli follow-up questions. So we've got that, how important is it to you? So that seed question, and then those follow-up questions to make sure you're systematically gathering more information about important preferences. Then Compass also allows you to track resident satisfaction with the way their preferences are being met over time. So if something's important to someone, we want to follow up and see how well we're honoring that preference. And so Compass allows you to do that as well. And I'll show you a little bit more about that here in a second. So Compass also, in doing that, Compass creates reports for you that will help you identify opportunity areas to improve the care delivery process. So again, knowing what's important to someone can help you tailor the care and really drill down and target what's important and where you need to be spending your time effectively. And then, as Katie mentioned too, the PAL cards, and I saw some great feedback in there. A lot of you were excited about the PAL cards. So as you're in there and collecting information in Compass, we also have a PAL card editor in there. So you can just drag and drop that information to create a PAL card right within the app itself. Awesome. And so just a little bit more about the app. So it is a web-based application, like I mentioned. It is compatible with a variety of devices. So you can use it on your smartphone, on a tablet, on a laptop, desktop. All that is required to use it is an internet connection. Care provider accounts can be set up to reflect your community's organizational structure. There's also some user types that you can assign within the app with varying levels of access. As you'll see in the interview section of the app, there are open text fields to improve efficiency in recording residents' comments about their specific preferences. So those are where you're gathering those details. We've got space to make sure you're able to do that effectively. And as well as printable reports that'll enhance the availability or the ability to share that preference information among care team members. So you can print off someone's preference profile, organized by how important something is to them, and then also their satisfaction, which again, I'll show you here. And then, as we mentioned, it includes the 16 Section F questions that are mandated, and as well as those follow-up questions. So again, helping you just kind of enhance the information that you may already be required to collect. As we mentioned, it's really not enough to just ask how important it is. You want those important details. And so Compass offers you a systematic way to ask those questions, to gather those details, and then to kind of act on it, as we'll show you here in a moment. So all of these features, as I mentioned, really helps you maximize the use of that preference data that you may already be mandated to collect or may be interested in collecting, to really help you make the best use of your time and to focus your resources on what matters most to an individual. And so this can be really helpful. And so again, just some of the features or some of the challenges that we've heard from providers that we took into consideration when developing this app that Compass addresses is gathering enough information from the section of questions. So I hope I hit that home, that you're able to gather all that information there. And then prioritizing what goes into the care plan. So again, that preference profile is organized by what's important. So you can see, at a glance, these are the pieces that need to go into this care plan. Assessing satisfaction. So that may be a concept that's new to your organization, but that's really going to be helpful as far as driving quality improvement and getting, enhancing that quality of care that we're all striving for. And then in addition to that, we have the Compass 16 has built in those PAL cards to give you a tool to communicate that important preference information. All right, and so again, here are what the PAL cards look like. And so again, this is built into Compass, so we'll be able to generate that for you. All right, and so we're just going to walk you through kind of screen by screen. So if you're interested in going to set up an account, we'll share that link with you so you can get access to Compass. I don't know if we mentioned that this is free to access currently. Or it's available at no cost, so you can get in there and start creating an account for your community today. And so this is the login screen or the landing page. So you can either sign up or log in if you already have an account. And then this is the sign up page, so very straightforward. So I will say whoever is the first person in your organization to create your account, they will put in the community name, and then they will be, they'll create their own login, and they will be, they'll automatically have the administrative privileges. So they'll be able to add additional users, make any changes, add residents and things like that. So just be aware of that when you go in to set it up, that person automatically will have those privileges. And so this is what the dashboard looks like. So after you created an account and log in, you will have this. And so this is something that we went back and forth on for a while to really focus on what meaningful information we want to see up front. So you'll see that we've got some resident summary stats. So it will say how many residents you have in your app currently, whether or not those residents need an initial interview. So that's the preference interview, if anyone needs a follow-up. And so when we're talking about follow-up here, that's the satisfaction interview. And then we've got some interview summary as well. So that'll let you know if we've got interviews in progress or what needs to be completed. You'll also see some satisfaction information as well. And so this is kind of high level satisfaction summary for your community. And so the green is, and so these are all for important preferences. So as Katie mentioned, if something's not important, we don't want to, for someone, we don't want to focus our time and energy on something that isn't important. And so the satisfaction summary focuses on all of those important preferences. And so in the green are important preferences that residents are satisfied with. So you are, excelling and honoring those preferences. And then the yellow and red, as you can imagine, are our opportunity areas. So the yellow is where we're somewhat satisfied with my important preference being met, and then the red is not at all satisfied. And so again, those are, and you'll see this color coding throughout. And so again, we like to think of these as opportunity areas because, like our webinar suggests, we have limited resources, and we really want to target what we do have and focus our time and effort where it's needed most. And so that's a quick way to be able to do that at a glance. So here's the add a residence page. So this is all the information that you'll need there. You can assign them a neighborhood and room, and this is all kind of going to help you filter and organize your community throughout as you go and kind of add your residents and build out your community within Compass. Awesome. And so after you do that, then you'll have this beautiful residence list that you can access, and you can see kind of more information here at a glance if they need an initial interview, when their last interview was completed, and different information like that. And so this is the start of the interview screen. So this will be for if you're going to start a preference assessment. So select the assessment here, select the resident that you want to start interviewing with. There's an option to review instructions there if you needed that, and then start the interview. And so this is the interviewing screen here. So as you'll see across the top underneath the resident's name, we'll have our seed questions. How important is it to you to choose what close to where in this case? And then we've got the response options right below that. And so important to note, so we don't have this live, but if you click on very or somewhat important, then those follow-up or nested questions will pop up. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Thank you, Katie. And so if something is very or somewhat important, these will give you some prompts to ask more questions, because again, we want to do this in a systematic way. We want to gather more information to help us honor that important preference. And so you'll be able to type that information in below. And so that will not appear automatically if the response option is not very or not at all important. I think you may still be able to access that, but again, we really want to get into the habit of, if it's important, we want all the information possible. And so the app helps you do that. Awesome. Oh, yep. See, here's the not important at all screen where it does not appear. Awesome. And so then over here, we're just highlighting the kind of the navigation screen here. And so as you can see, we've got some star ratings. So the 2 stars is, something that is very important. 1 star is maybe somewhat important. And then the little green check mark lets you know that you've completed those questions. And so it kind of helps you keep track and then at a glance know what's important to someone. Awesome. Okay. And so then here is the interview. So after the interview, this is the part of the preference profile. And so it says, again, at a glance here on the right-hand side, what the preference rate or the importance rating is. So you can glance that there.
Alex, I just have to point out in chat, Mary just said, this is wonderful. It will help clear off about 1 million sticky notes from my desk. And if you guys could see our desk, you would see all the
Yeah.
millions of sticky notes too.
Yeah, tons of sticky notes. Yeah, yeah. So glad to help you with that because that's a never-ending battle, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I think I did see another question pop up, but I was in the middle of something about accessing it. Yes. So is this available to all users under the grant or just facilities in Ohio? So this is available to everyone. So our grant funds, we kind of focus our recruitment efforts in Ohio because that's where we get, the money from, but this is available to everybody across the country. And we are more than happy to work with you wherever you are. I don't know,
And
Katie, if you wanted to add.
And Megan, I think that's the way it's pronounced, her name. She has a question about, is this still protected information if we have to insert residents' full name and birth date? So this software program is built by Link Senior, who is a HIPAA compliant. They have HIPAA compliant servers. This information that you're entering is going to be protected on their servers. It is not going to be printed out on your PAL card. When we get there, when we show you how to generate the PAL card, it won't come out on your PAL card, which could be the HIPAA violation. Hopefully, if that makes sense, keep your questions covered. Is this covered under HIPAA? Who monitors the safety of this app? Yes, so Link Senior, if you're familiar with this company, you know that they have to manage HIPAA privacy. And so this is something that they have got under wraps. This is one of the main reasons why we wanted to partner with Link Senior to do this work, because we knew they had the capacity to do this work in the right way. All right, Alex, I will be quiet.
Yeah, no, thank you, Katie, for jumping in there.
Here was another one that came up around, does it interface with pre-existing software reporting systems? Could you give us an example? We know that, for example, they have created a way that you can just import a whole bunch of residents. Right now, it doesn't interface with like a point-click care system. We're trying to get there. We need to get a little more grant funding to move that work forward. So that is in our sites, but we're not quite there yet. Who do we contact for this software through the grant program? So I'm going to put the link in your chat box and you can contact me. And also I'll put my email in there as well. So I'll let Alex keep going and I'll put some stuff in the chat for you.
Yeah, if you want to advance the slide real quick before you start dropping links in there. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So as you mentioned, the PAL cards, and I know there was some interest there. So after you complete the assessment and if you've marked any of the 8 recreational items as important, that information will be available to you here in the PAL card editor. And so, so if you mark a preference as important over on the interview screen, it's really important that you type in more details and information there, because that is what will be available to you here in the PAL card editor for you to drag and drop and edit. And so previously, this was something that communities had to do just in a Word document. So they had to take the paper and pencil interview and then type it up into a Word document and print it out. And so this was kind of a solution to help save folks time and efforts here. And so that will do it for you. Awesome. Okay, yes, so that was the PAL card editor, and then the follow-up interview. So as you mentioned, so we really want to focus our time and efforts on what is important to the person. And so this follow-up interview will help you, is essentially a satisfaction assessment. And so we're asking an individual, first following up, how important is it to you to choose what clothes to wear? And if this is something that is that the individual reports is very important, then we're going to follow up with that satisfaction question. How satisfied are you with this preference being met? And so then you get the response. And so then you go through the whole assessment, all of those 16 questions. And again, if it's something that's important, we want to know that satisfaction. And then that will help us generate that satisfaction report, which I think is the next slide here. Okay, let's see, follow-up interview. So we got some details. Yes, here we go. So, so this is then the individual satisfaction report. And so you can see at a glance, we've got a lot of green. So again, that's what we celebrate. We're doing those things well. So you want to take a look at what preferences, that are important to them, that they are happy with being met, and continue to do those things, right? Because obviously that's important to them and we're excelling there. But then not to worry not to dread the yellow and the red areas. Like I said, those are just our opportunity areas. So we're able to quickly identify where we can enhance our care delivery for this individual. And so I don't think we have it on this screenshot here, but down below, you can, yes, okay, perfect. Thank you, Katie. So it tells you, gives you some care recommendations. So based on those red and yellow sections, those are again opportunity areas. So we have built into to Compass as well our IPI cards to help generate some suggestions about maybe different approaches you can use to better honor those preferences. And so one of them real quick is, so say an individual has a preference for being, for including individuals in discussions about their care. And so just, this is an example of what you can download there. So we have linked a tip sheet about engaging family and friends in care discussions. So if that's something that's important that maybe you're, that individual said that you could improve on for them, here's some tips really quickly to help your community do that. And then say an individual says interacting with pets, is something that's important to them and that preference isn't being met. We've got some IPI cards here locked and loaded for you with some suggestions on approaches to help honor that preference as well. So we've got an IPI that is directly about interacting with pets. Maybe somebody really enjoyed outdoor wildlife activities. And so the IPI cards, again, are step-by-step instructions to help you facilitate a brief and meaningful intervention for an individual. And so all of this is built into that satisfaction component in Compass 16.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you, Alex. So we want to answer questions, but we also sort of want to get some input from you, because here's where this helps us in knowing what resources do you need from us? How best can we help you do this work? So could you see your community using Compass 16? Take a minute and answer this poll and let us know what you think, because then we also want to ask you to put in the chat a couple of other things, like what are some pain points that you can envision your community let me restart. Can you think of any pain points in your community that Compass 16 could help alleviate? What are some things that this could help with, right? We've given you some suggestions. So, oh yes, Carolyn, it would be great to have this approved corporate ride. We could absolutely do that. And we'd be happy to talk with your corporate people. Just reach out to me. Tara said, I see this as a good tool for a memory care, assisted living, trying to figure out how to work with this in conjunction with the life story. That's a great suggestion. So how about let's close the poll, Megan. Let's see how many people might have. Okay, great. So 36%, yeah, absolutely, we can do this. 55% maybe, and 9% are like, no. And so we want to hear more about that, right? And so what are the barriers to implementing Compass in your community? We clearly know staff, right? Staffing, huge barrier. You've got to have the people power to do this work, right? And now I got to come back here and catch up with the chat. And Alex, pop in if you see one that you want to. Are the questions in the assessment regarding voting? Oh my gosh, Amber, no. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't ask that question. In terms of, for how important it is for you to vote. Probably at the time there was an election coming up when we were doing our work around the Peli, and so it wasn't an item that came up regularly for folks, but that's a really important way for residents to still feel like they have a voice to participate in the democratic process, right? Okay, so this is great and well needed. So this is Roberta. With the acuity rate being so high at the current time, it helps everyone to see how to make sure we are offering quality of life. It's a clear indication to anybody who walks into your community that can see these in action, right? That they would see, they value us, they value our story, they want to know, they want to listen. And there's no greater honor than listening to somebody's story. And so that's something that I wanted to circle back with around. Somebody had something about how does this integrate with life story? So the difference here is that Compass can give you quality improvement opportunities so that you're going to get these reports so that if something comes back as a yellow or red, and maybe it's around snacks not being available, you can at the quarterly care conference or whenever you do a care planning meeting, you can ask, okay, Rosie said that we're not meeting her preference around snacks. What can we do to turn this around? So again, it gives you a concrete information to move forward with it. The life story sets more of a context, right? It helps you contextualize who this person is, where, how they have lived their life. And what we know is that people just become more like themselves as they age, right? And so that helps us contextualize this person and understand where they're coming from. They're not, they're not, neither one is better or worse. They're just different tools. I hope that answers that question. Okay, so Megan has one thing I think could be a barrier would be having to input information received in twice. Yes. And so that is a barrier that we do realize and we are trying to work on. You can, there is a way to input all your resident information. And so again, we can help you with that if you're interested. Diana, definitely a corporate decision. Agree. Again, happy to help with your talk with corporate people. So Catherine, I see people saying it's extra work because we are already doing this in PCC. However, I think if we take point or someone else just uses the part that pertains to the PAL card. Yes, it can sell peeps on the PAL cards. Absolutely. Yeah, not feel we're going to do double work. It's time and personnel, absolute barriers. We hear you. But again, what I would say is that thinking about how you could pitch this to anybody in your organization, we either invest the time now in learning about our people, whether you use the Peli and Compass or not, right? Like this is just a philosophical decision to have. We either invest the time and energy in knowing our people and providing the kind of care they need, or we're going to end up running circles because we're trying to figure out how to remediate these persistent vocalizations that stress everybody out and raises everybody's blood pressure in the community. Or I'm, having to chase somebody around because they're wandering, right? And so again, that's like a philosophical discussion point that you can have whether you use our tools or not. Yes, individualized interventions, absolutely tailored. Everybody wants to do something that matters to them, right? Getting the owners on board with the idea, agree. I can see at least one of my team members saying that the old way isn't broken, so we don't have to fix it. So then I'd go back to Joan's point. Don't think of it as a change. Think of it as a transformation. That we are not going to assume that we know what people like and don't like. And we're going to use evidence-based materials to help guide us because we don't have the luxury of spending time on homegrown assessments that may or may not be as robust as we need them to be. And so there are some ways you can think about this and ways that you could engage family potentially and help your team members see that this is a concrete way we could engage our family members who may have a lot of guilt about their loved one living in the community. So again, not all families going to be responsive to your efforts, but some might. Getting other staff on board, Dawn, agreed. It's going to be hard to do. But maybe if they're able to see, some moments of joy because you've been able to spend a little bit of time with somebody in a meaningful way, that they might start to see it happening. So it may be that somebody has to start for others to see the impact. All right. Yeah, I see a lot of things. Any other ones that I haven't brought up, Alex, that seem different?
Nope, I think that's good.
Okay, I'm just going to keep going because I know we're running out of time. So as we mentioned, we put the link in the chat to Access Compass. Here is the link to Access Compass. We also have a tip sheet that we created for you to use to talk to anybody at your community about why preference-based programs can help you. And then we also put the link here to the Pioneer Network core values that Joan mentioned. And so that's something that we wanted you to have. We also have tons more resources on preferencebasedliving.com, our website. We have a newsletter. When you go to the website, a little pop-up will happen where you can sign up to receive our newsletter. We only send out one newsletter a month. chock full of great information. We do not sell your information, and so it'll be kept secure. We have tip sheets, we have training videos, we have recorded webinars, we have toolkits. And so they're things that we'd love to share all of these resources with you. Feel free to connect with us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And I also then wanted to stop and share our thank yous. Here are our personal email addresses so that we're more than happy to have any more conversations with you. I'll put my email in the chat as well. Would welcome your outreach, would be happy to have a separate Zoom conversation with you and your community. Alex just recently left to actually implement this in practice. And so I don't know if you want to say a few words, Alex, about where you are now, and then Megan will transition to you.
Yeah, so I, after about 5 years with working with Katie, I have accepted a position at a CCRC here in Cincinnati. And so I am really excited to bring all of the preference-based resources and tools to this community, because I know firsthand just the quality improvement and just the joy that it can bring folks. And so continuing to work with Katie to do this work. And thank you all so much for your time.
And Katie and Alex, I would just add, one thing is you talked about, Katie, what people are concerned about adding more to the workload. That's the biggest thing you need to look at. This is another option, and it's a wonderful option. And it has technologies and it has processes that we didn't know about 15, 20 years ago when we started collecting preferences. So it's not something, don't think about this as adding something more to your work. You want to transform the work you're doing to a better, smarter way to do it. So please don't bring the Pele cards on, but keep on doing what you're already doing, because that's just sheer craziness and nobody has the time or the energy to do it. But consider, are there opportunities that this process can improve something you may already be doing?
Absolutely. Katie, Alex, Joan, thank you so very much for your time today. And I see that more questions and comments are rapidly coming into the chat and Q&A. But on the screen here, we have contact information for Charles if you want to learn more about Link Senior and how we are HIPAA compliant. And then also Katie's information here if you want to learn more about the Pele. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have CEU questions as well at webinars@linksenior.com. As we're wrapping up here today, I just have a few last minute announcements I'm going to run through. The first being that we were able to collaborate with Katie and Alex on this great tip sheet. So I've been dropping that link into the chat box. You can download that. 7 key tips to help you on today's webinar topic around preferences. So we hope you'll download that and share it widely with your teams and communities. We are also co-hosting a free webinar this week on Thursday with the Ohio Person-Centered Care Coalition. So we hope that you can join us for that. There is an opportunity to earn free continuing education credit there. On September 6th, we'll be hosting our next free Activity Strong webinar with Marvell Adams Jr. Hope you can join us from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time that Tuesday, September 6th. And the link on the screen here will bring you to the full calendar of our upcoming events, which also includes our fall Decoding Dementia Gathering. So this is a 3-hour gathering next month on September 20th. Earn up to 3 free continuing education credits, 3 separate sessions, all sessions about how to improve dementia care for your residents in your communities. So we hope that you will register. That link is going to take you to the full agenda so that you can see who is speaking at that event next month. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to drop in the CEU survey link into the chat box for everyone and just thank our featured speakers, Alex, Katie, Joan. Thank you again. And we hope everyone has a great week and we will talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.